A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how buyers were actually hurting themselves with some of their offers. Now we're going to flip the script. We're going to have a top 1% agent tell us how listings can sometimes be set up for failure, and you may not even know it. So what are some things people that are listing properties might be doing wrong, Beth?
Hi there. Yeah, so last time we talked about ways that buyers might be unknowingly sabotaging their offers. And I thought it would be good to have a discussion about the flip side of that too, about how sellers are sometimes doing things that are sabotaging their own listing and sale. And then alternatively for buyers, if you know how to spot these things in listings, and that can be sometimes where the opportunity lies. Mm-hmm. So if you're a seller, be aware of these things. If you're a buyer, tune your radar to pick up on some of these things because it can work in a buyer's favor. So
absolutely.
The first one is the big daddy is overpricing, right? So we see that most. Buyers are pretty savvy these days. They're pretty well educated. Most buyers we see out there have been looking for a while. They're not, generally speaking, new to the market. They've been out there doing their homework, waiting, watching. They have expectations of where they think a house should be priced. And if somebody's way over that, they're going to miss the mark. And it's different in different markets, I've been told. But in our market, if you overprice, buyers they might come and look at it, but they're going to avoid it for a while and they don't even make the offers, the disrespectful offers that we talk about. They just ignore it. And so they wait. And then as time goes on, eventually price reductions may, if a seller is motivated, they will reduce the price. But when it gets in line with where it should be, that's when people strike. And the longer it stays on the market, the lower it ultimately sells for. So the thought, sometimes I'll hear people say, well, I'll just price it higher and I'll just wait longer to get the better offer. If you look at the data, that's not how it works. So the people that are selling for the most are the people that are listing well, priced well, straight from the beginning, getting maximum market exposure, more and better offers earlier. Buyers are watching that days on market, and when they see that tick up, they wonder, why has that house been on the market? Something's wrong. If nobody else is buying it, why should I buy it? Yeah. And they pull back.
I see that in almost all markets. There's some number in everyone's buy box where a house gets tagged, right? It's some days on market, 45 days, 50, 80. I don't know what it is in your markets, but at some point it just gets ignored.
Yeah, you'll scroll right by it and don't even see it after a while, even after you do the price change later. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and sometimes people don't have they're not looking at their house through the right lens. So if it's your own home, it's very hard to, even if you're a real estate agent like me that works in that industry, you need to kind of step back. And sometimes if you're selling your own house, you need to have others come in and give a price opinion, because it's very hard to detach yourself from the personal value that you place on your own property, because it has sentimental value and other values that don't mean anything to a buyer. A buyer doesn't care about the family you raised there or any of those other things. They're looking at it like a commodity, just like any other commodity, like a car or a bar of gold or anything that has a specific value. And the intangibles that mean a lot to you as a person don't mean anything to those buyers. So you really have to separate yourself from that. And that can be tough. Yep. Another thing that has nothing to do with the market value is what you need to get to buy your next house. I see that a lot too. People saying, well, it's going to cost me a fortune to buy in Montana or wherever they're buying, or Arizona. So I need to sell this house for this much because I'm buying a house in Scottsdale that costs this much. Buyers don't care about that. You're going to have to detach from that. It doesn't matter what you paid for it. It doesn't matter what you're going to be paying. The market is what the market is, and you need to price accordingly, and people need to be realistic about that. So, and I think agents before taking listings need to make sure they're asking the right questions to make sure there's alignment on that, and that the plan is known ahead of time. There needs to be the right expectations set. Part of it sometimes, so I work in an area that has very unique homes that are hard to price, and that's my specialty, is unique homes. We have a lot of acreage homes, custom homes, homes that have unique qualities. And so one of the things that I talk about when I'm pricing a property is mistake number 2, which is using the wrong comparables when you're pricing your home. So you might look on Zillow and say, well, this one's a 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And it sold for, in my market, I'll say 1.1. And therefore mine should be worth 1.1, but there's a lot of other factors that go into it. And so what I say is you need to use the right comparable. So for example, one I hear sometimes is sellers might say, well, these subdivision homes are selling for $2 million in Sammamish, and mine has 5 acres, and that one has a 6,000 square foot lot. So mine should be worth 3 million or more because that one's worth 2 and I've got so much more land. Like, well, that buyer that's buying the subdivision home is not buying your 5-acre property. We need to be only looking at similar properties. If you were a buyer looking at your house, which other houses would you be looking at? They won't be looking probably at the subdivision properties. Those are different.
Right.
You need to make sure you're looking at the proper comparables when you're pricing. And you can't extrapolate because one house, 1,000 square foot house is selling for X, that a 2,000 square foot house should be selling for twice that. That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. The same thing too is price per square foot. We don't usually go by price per square foot. If you're in Manhattan looking at condos, for example, you can use price per square foot. But if you're dealing with things like acreage, view, waterfront versus non-waterfront, things like that that have nothing to do with price per square foot.
Right. Very different.
Don't use that when pricing your home.
Love it. Love it. What do you got for number 3?
All right. Failure to prepare your home for sale.
Yes.
You may have a gorgeous home that could be very well worth top dollar in this market, but if you don't do the prep, the perceived value that buyers are going to assign to it is going to be dramatically reduced. So when people are scrolling along on Zillow or whatever site, they're looking at the thumbnails and there's beautifully presented homes, and then they click on yours and it's like, oh, there's junk in the yard, stuff on the counters. And granted, we know all that stuff is going to be gone when the house is sold, and buyers sometimes think they can look past that, but in reality, they really cannot. What I have found is that they don't, or they think they can, but then they see a beautifully presented home. They're going to go toward that one, especially if it's priced the same or even more. Mm-hmm. They're going to gravitate toward that one. So it's worth taking the time and getting the guidance to prepare the home for sale. That doesn't mean remodeling. You need to find a real estate professional that can advise you as to which items are going to give you a large return on investment versus the ones that are not. Like tearing out a kitchen, unless you're a flipper, rarely makes sense. Painting the cabinets, putting new hardware on, putting some quartz countertops and some new appliances, yeah, that could potentially. Yeah. Or at a minimum, carpet, paint, cleaning, landscape cleanup. You got to do those things. You're going to really suffer if you don't.
To that end, the other one that kind of annoys me, and I know you don't do this, but lots of agents still do it, is they take out their iPhone and they're using iPhone pictures for the MLS list. Are you serious? How lazy can you be?
My phone takes some awesome photos, but there's no way. So that's the perfect segue to the next one, which is poor photography.
Yes.
Poor photography. We hate it. I saw one the other day where the agent's finger was in the frame, like still every reel still doing that. People wonder why agents, some agents aren't worth what they're charging. It's like, well, there you go. You look at that. And so, you got to work with a professional photographer to take professional photos. We do the drone photos on the ground, the virtual tours, etc. You got to do all of that. At least maybe different markets are going to vary as far as the level of what's expected as far as photography and videography. I know for us, we do full videos and tours for everything. And of course, it's going to be professional photos. The other thing I would say is don't overtouch your photos. I've seen some lately that just look like AI generated with the purple sky and the glowing windows. Like I know Halloween just happened, but back off on the AI a little bit. We want to make sure it looks like a real house, because the goal is to get people to go to the actual house. If we don't want them to walk in and be like, whoa, what is this? This isn't what I was expecting. We've all been there.
Yeah. One of the questions I knew I wanted to ask you about this one is let's say you're a seller of a vacant home. Yeah. Would you stage it, or what would you do with a vacant home?
Yes. So staging is another thing on my list. So you're helping me out a lot here. So yes, I would say staged versus unstaged is huge. Now, again, in my market, there's a high expectation of staging.
Sure.
And I'm outside Seattle, but I know in Seattle proper, even if people are living in the home, they're expected to move out completely and stage the home, like vacant and staged. Got to be vacant and staged. There's a high standard for that. Where I am, it's a little more half and half. I work with a stager where we sometimes can make a lived-in home look like a staged home. The idea is I don't want people looking at your house and thinking about who you are living there. Because some people look at the photos and looking at the stuff. They're trying to figure out who lives here. And like, that's the wrong thing. We want people to focus on how they can live in the home. It's never how people really live. It's more of an idealized version showing the space and the flow and framing the photos and all that. But it's all about creating that perceived value, because if you can show a dark amateur photo with some unmade bed versus a staged home, which one do you think the buyers are going to give them the higher perceived value to? It's the one that's staged. And so you don't have to stage the entire home, but at least the main living areas, the kitchen, the primary bedroom, etc., the bathrooms, we do at least those. And just to give that nice look like you would see if you were going into a model home, for example. Yeah, it is important. Now,
makes sense.
Brandon, I've seen in some other parts of the country where nobody stages. Okay, but I think if that might be even a way you can differentiate yourself even more in that market, if you really want to go above and beyond. Flippers always stage their homes, at least around here they do. Why do they do that? Because they want to get top dollar in the resale.
Yeah.
So yes.
I think staging makes a lot of sense. Certainly at your price points, and probably even half your price points makes a lot of sense for folks.
Yeah, we do it regardless of price point or regardless of type of home. Small entry-level condo, luxury home, staging is important for all of them. We always do it. Always do it.
All right.
And so using the wrong comparables, failure to identify your buyer. That's another thing. You need to think when you're a seller who your buyer is. Now, so if somebody, in a certain area, if they're looking at acreage, depending on the type of acreage, then there's probably somebody who has projects. They want to have animals. They want a garden. They have a lifestyle they're looking to achieve. They want to be outdoors. If somebody's in a condo in town, they're looking for proximity to amenities. They're looking for low maintenance. They're looking for, you need to think about what's important to your buyer for that home, and make sure that you're connecting. Especially the more unique that property is, you want to make sure you're connecting with the person where that's really going to click for them. So you need to think about who is our buyer so that you can stage it, prepare it, emphasize those things, those qualities about the property that are important to that specific buyer for your home. So
love that.
And if you're there and you're enjoying it, then what are the things I love about this property? These are the things that I want to project out there to attract those people who also enjoy those things. You want to make sure you're connecting with the right buyer. Last but not least, failure to pick up your phone, listing agents, or at least return the call. It's become almost like a stereotype and a meme thing. It's like the agents not picking up their phone or returning their calls. Don't do that. Our job is to sell homes, and you got to communicate with people to do that. If somebody wants to present an offer or ask questions about a property, get back to them. Now, I know I get a lot of calls. Probably 90% of the calls I get are some sort of spam or sales call. So it's easy to want to not answer. At the very least, if somebody leaves a message or follows up with a text, call them back or text them back. Whatever makes sense. Just keep that communication going. Respond to the emails, get the answers, and follow up. Yeah. If you just do that, sometimes people are like, wow, I can't believe the quick response and thank you so much. It's like, you're welcome, but that's literally my job. So
that's what I'm paid to do. Yeah.
People, if you want to be worth the money, you need to act like it, right? So the communication, friendly communication too. Friendly communication goes everywhere. So
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this list. I love the fact that you've got both the buyers and seller sides for us. Also, you're a big part of our school community, and you're always helping One Rental at a Time fans make connections with other top 1% agents. Do we just send them to BethTraversogroup.com? Is that where we send everybody?
That's a great way to reach out to me directly. Or yes, you can message me on school or find me on there. Or I'm just easy to find on the internet. If you just put my name in there, I'll pop up everywhere. So
there you go. Yeah. Well, Beth, make sure you go vote if you haven't voted already. It is election day.
Done it. Yep.
Yay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.